Okay. So today I'm going to be talking about my current project. I just started it this year. It's called Solar Server, and the design ethos for making low carbon video games. I am based in Calgary. Before I get into Solar Server, I'll talk about some other game pieces that I've done that relate to varying degrees to the environment. This is a piece of mine called Ritual of the Moon. I'm just trying to see if I can see you all at the same time too. Usually I can. No, I can't. But if there's any issues, just please post it in the chat. So this is a still from Ritual of the Moon. It is where the player plays as a witch who has been exiled to the moon and can decide whether to destroy or protect the Earth from comets that are bombarding it. The game is played over 28 real-time days, so you would play for like 3 minutes a day. They have like short meditational activities, different reflections, and different paths that you take over the 28 days. This is from a visual novel called The Earth is a Better Person Than Me. It follows a young woman who's in crisis, runs away from her life into a forest. She discovers that she can talk to the earth around her. She talks to the moon about pure desire, flower about perfectionism, and water about self-love, dirt about self-hate. This is images from Humaning. It's a print-and-play multiplayer role-playing game about non-human factors such as plants, metals, and bacteria in influencing and building human life together. They design a human life from pre-birth to post-death, drawing onto a body in layers of experience that the actants affect. And the final one I'll mention is my most recent piece called Unearth You. It first presents itself as a wellness app, like other wellness apps that give inspiration or track progress or offer meditations, but it follows an AI named Care, who undergoes her own wellness journey that looks very different from what it originally may seem. It uses all found materials from film footage to prefab models to have this ethos of reuse. So you can see a lot of my work is about kind of wellness culture and healing and mental health as it is kind of in relation to the environment. So what I'm talking about today is Solar Server. This is an autonomous solar powered web server run from my apartment balcony that will host a series of video games designed to be low carbon and have environmental themes in the game. So the project's inspired by the movement to limit the internet, maker culture around sustainability, question energy consumptions of digital technology. This is a screen cap of the website, which is running off of the solar powered web server. It has like a trailer for the first game. It's like a very minimal website at the moment. Some of the weather in Calgary, pretty basic. This is the solar server itself. You can see on the left is the solar panel. Underneath it is kind of the setup. For those interested, the setup is a 120-watt solar panel. I bought it off Kijiji. So it's used a marine deep cycle sealed lead acid battery, also used from Kijiji, an 8.5 charge controller that came with the solar panel that controls how much power the panel is sending, a buck converter, which is a DC-DC converter that efficiently converts a high voltage to low voltage consistently. On the right is a Raspberry Pi, which is the server itself. It's a form of microcomputer. This one has 8 gigabytes of RAM and a 32 gig flash card. I'm sure you all know this, but just to say it, a web server is a computer that stores specific web server software, website's component files. All website data is physically stored, and each time it's called upon, it costs energy to upload and download. Nowadays, most websites are on Amazon-owned web servers and use like highly energy consumptive data centers. This is part of the movement that's going on now that's concerned with the carbon consumption of what have become common digital practices. The energy usage of streaming in particular, many theorists and designers are pushing back against. Some of the practices that people are taking up are like compressing images, auto-playing videos on low res, encouraging downloading, then streaming if you're going to replay something like music, and also static web design. So solar power might not work all the time. That's like often a go-to critique of it. For this project, I think that's really okay. I live in very sunny Calgary. It's very dry here. Depending, of course, on the demand on the server, it might still go down a few days a year, and that's like totally fine with me. The expectation of an on-demand 24/7 consumption is really ridiculous, and it makes sense that the climate affects our ability to do and access things. And I think this move to sustainable energy is a wonderful opportunity to reassess the ways in which capitalism has refigured our expectations about constant access to shopping, to working, to other people's personal lives, like browsing, gaming, downloading. So though the battery that solar server has means it should be up like 340 days a year, depending on audience size and demand. If it goes down for a bit, like that's fine. No one needs to play a video game. It's never dire. In December in Calgary, we had about 3 weeks at -30. The battery and the panel were running fine, but the Pi started having issues. So the Pi CPU runs 20 to 30 degrees higher than the outside temperature, but the LAN runs best between 0 and 70. So even factoring the CPU's generated heat, the LAN was having some difficulty. And if it is the case that the cold weather makes the server not able to run perfectly smoothly, I'm also really fine with that. This project is about the climate and about our unrealistic expectations for energy consumption. So if I have to put a notice on the website that says, if you see it's colder than -20 in Calgary, things might not work well, then great. I think that the effects of the climate crisis should be noticeable. Of course, this is pretty different than usually what is the issue with data centers and servers, which are running too hot, and that because of all of the generated heat, and have to use even more energy to cool them down. Part of solar server is curational. So instead of hosting an ever-growing indefinite archive, each game made for it will be up for a limited amount of time, from a month to 2 years. There'll be just 1 or 2 games available to play on the website. This is to, of course, not have the data cost to host it all on the little Pi, but also to be more in line with realistic limits on the internet. So the first game for it is Known Mysteries, which I'll show a bit of in a minute. So this is a cli-fi or climate science fiction mystery deduction game set in the near future. It follows a woman named Sorrow, whose parents recently died, as she uncovers the oil-turned-tech company's continued destruction of the planet. In the content of the game, it's about emotional connection to the environment, our effective experience of the climate crisis and its futurity, as well as the necessity of labor organizing for futures that are not fundamentally based in exploitation. So I'll play, this is not the trailer, which is on the website. This is like the beginning section that kind of sets up the larger game.
just woken up from another round of ground sickness. Dizzy, mouth dry. Another day on this doomed planet. I almost fell off the bed again when I turned on my side. I'm still not used to this little bed with my grown-up body, even though I've been back here in my childhood home for months now. I made a pact with myself to write in this journal every night before a launch and read it every morning once the ground sickness wears off, but honestly, it seems pointless. I always write the same 3 things. Why did I come back here? Why did my parents die? And why won't my fucking plants grow? I've never written any answers. I already know them. I had no reason to come back here to this little town where I grew up. My body just sort of brought me back, as if my mind had no choice in the matter. Everyone and everything dies, and unfortunately, that includes my mom's. And I suck at gardening. I'm more tired than ever. I know I think that every day, but that's what it feels like. Coffee, food, shower. I drag my feet through it all. There's just 7 days until the next launch, a quicker than normal cycle. Lately, I've looked forward to them. The peace of the deep, unwaking sleeps and not having to get out of bed. But I'm awake now, so what should I do with my precious energy? The garden needs to be checked on. And I've gotten into the habit of visiting Uncle before he goes to work.
So as I said, this piece is a mystery deduction game, meaning that you start out with a few questions to answer, which were here in the video. You visit different locations from navigating a map, meet different people, start to string together theories about what is going on. The game operates through videos like you just saw, navigating maps, and text, sort of like a visual novel, like in this previous previous image here. And there's a journal that the player can write in and help keep track of clues and theories. And there's images from the video that introduce each chapter. All of the images are archival and found footage, like in my previous piece, Unearth You. They're mostly taken from Canada's National Film Board and the Prelinger Library, which is based in San Francisco. Collections of 1970s and 80s nature documentaries and industrial film. They are then, of course, you can see from the aesthetic, heavily compressed and given this like dithering aesthetic to draw attention to the compression. The color palette that I chose is that of what is possible on the Apple II computer. Again, speaking to this broader movement around like limiting the internet or limiting digital media. A minute of the compressed video right now is 6 megabytes. It's pretty small. I'm experimenting with getting it smaller. I think we can deal with the look of like the compressed visuals and it can be really beautiful, but compressed sound can be trickier for a lot of people. So experimenting with that. Some helpful resources that I've found for designing for low carbon is Low Tech Magazine and Solar Protocol have solar powered websites, and they've shared their guides on how to set up solar powered servers or design low carbon websites. So these were 2 like big references for me when I was setting up a solar server. It's also Dither It by Alex Harris and Squoosh. They both compress images and helpfully tell you about like what percent they've been squished. And you can like, to the human eye, can barely tell the difference, even if it's like 75% less big. I'm going to be making my own how-to guide specifically targeting video games, but once the whole process is more ironed out, Known Mysteries is going to come out later this year. And I have a few ideas for what is going to come next for Solar Server. So you can watch, you can watch the trailer. It's like a way shorter thing than you've just seen on the website. Also have a newsletter where I'm talking a bit about the process of making it. And I also share that on Twitter as well. So thanks so much, everyone. Looking forward to any questions.